start first with Navigate. So of course you click on it from the portal, and the main things that I use Navigate for is to look up a student schedule, so to see what classes they're taking, but also their test scores. So if you're checking like for math or chemistry and you're kind of confirming that they have all the prerequisites that are in there, of course the system should catch them, but unfortunately there always seems to be a couple that slip through the crack. Or more likely than not, what will happen is like right now, whenever students are registering for the spring, it'll kind of let them take, if they're in 122, they can sign up for 124. Well, if they end up failing it, there isn't a grade system that kicks them out of the 124. So Phil does run a couple reports to try to catch them. But I do recommend, if you have time and it's just something, it's not the end of the world, but I do encourage you that kind of at the beginning of the semester, you look through some of your rosters and just make sure that they did pass the prerequisite course and that they didn't kind of sneak in to the class. But anyways, so how you would look at that. So I'll just pick one of my students here. Let's go with James. So whenever you click on them, it'll show a few different things. So first of all, it'll show their major there. It also has their student ID. Usually if they're new, depending on if they're freshmen, usually their picture shows up over there. And then over on the right, it also will tell you like their advisor and then their other instructors for the current semester. It'll also give you a few attributes. So like down here, again, freshmen, but they're also an honors student. So it shows that as a cohort there. So you know that they're in the honors program. But the main thing that I really use Navigate for is here on the class info. So if you click on the class info, it gives you their schedule. So this is, good if you're trying to figure out a time to meet with somebody. Or if somebody's like, oh, I can't come because I'm in class, you can always verify whether or not that's actually true and legitimate, or, kind of work around that. But then down, if you scroll down past the courses that they're in, it also has the other courses from other semesters that they've taken. Of course, as their GPA, you can see over on the right, but then down at the bottom, is where those courses are, where their ACT and SAT scores, that's where they would be. So essentially any score that we ever have on them would show up in here. I don't think this student probably had to take the ALEX placement tests, no. But if they did, our ALEX placement test for math or the AccuPlacer for reading, those scores would also show up in here as well. So you could look at those to verify. But again, if you're using it to verify, kind of do prerequisite checks, if you're looking for a course, again, you could look back through here to see what courses they've taken and what grades they received. Or if you're just double checking scores, those would be down at the bottom. So you can tell those. Also, there is a place here, reports and notes, that you can add. So if you go to action, there are different reminders there, but then notes about James. So you can add a note. So if you've met with the student and you want to just kind of document what you talked about, you can add a note here so that that kind of stays in, especially if they switch advisors, or if you told them to take a course and they end up taking 5 different things that they shouldn't have taken. And someone comes back and is like, why did they take those classes? At least you can verify and be like, hey, I told them to take X, Y, and Z, so what they did after that is on them. And then sometimes if they're on probation, or if they have an academic success plan for financial aid, Janie will put those success plans here in the reports and the notes, so that, and just a little bit about those if you're not real familiar with those. Students that are on probation for financial aid, they have to complete a plan of study, what courses they plan to take each semester, and they have to take those courses. So Janie uploads those into in here so that advisors can see what those courses are, so that if they come and are like, hey, can I change from English to a history class, then you can just kind of confirm that they don't have a success plan, or if they do, that it's something that's on there. And if not, and if they have a valid reason for needing to change, then sometimes those plans can be changed, but they just can't take whatever they want to. They do have to verify and update their plan. Otherwise, they're in breach of their financial aid and they're likely to lose it at the end of that semester. And then over on the right-hand side over here with staff alerts, of course, there's a message student, and whenever you click on that, it gives you the option, to send an email, which goes to their Mix account, or to send the text message. So often students, especially if you've tried to reach them by email, and this is for any of your students, if you try to email, texting, I usually have better results with if somebody doesn't respond to an email very well. But that information's in here. Now, I will tell you, if you send them a text message, it doesn't identify you. It shows some odd, weird number, that it comes up as. So make sure you say, hi, this is Vicki Huffman, your advisor, or your biology instructor, but introduce yourself, because otherwise they really don't have, it doesn't identify you in any way whenever you send that text message. Let's see. I guess the only other thing I would really show here is you do have the option here. So if you wanted to email, say, all of your advisees, that would show up here. If you highlight all and then go up to actions, you can send a message. And again, that would send it, so you don't have to send an email to every, to each individual person. If you were sending a blanket email about the last day to withdraw from classes, or registration opening, or just something that everybody needed to hear, you can send that to everybody this way. And that's really all that I use Navigate for. Any questions? I know others do. If you hear people talking about like an advising campaign or something like that, there is a way to use Navigate to set those up to where students can schedule different times with you. This appointment campaign here, I don't use that. I'm not real familiar with it. So I'll tell you that it exists. There's a way to set it up so that students can register for times to meet with you using this. But I'm just not your go-to on how to use that. So any questions about Navigate? Nope. All right. All right. So then DegreeWorks. Ooh, that's small. All right. So DegreeWorks is set up to make sure that students are taking the courses they need to. So I only use this for advising. And if you know the student ID, you can, type it in here and hit enter. Otherwise, we can go to find. And this is also, if you ever, for any reason, need to know different things, you can even use DegreeWorks here to identify all students in a certain degree. Okay, so so if they're majoring in, let's say, let's find a good one. We'll have people in it. All right, let's do pre-vet. So for some reason, we wanted to know all of the majors that were pre-vet majors. We could click on that and then search, and it'll show us here in a little bit after it has a little bit of time. But down here at the bottom, it will show us all of the pre-veterinary science majors that are registered. But typically, we are just using this to do typically for advising. So if we're looking up somebody, let's use Sadie Frantz here. So if I put in her first and last name and then search, nobody found. Oh, because I have, sorry. Okay, so now if we look down here, it identifies her. She's the only Sadie Frantz. If there was another one, it would list all of them and you'd have to figure out who's who. But if we then hit OK, then what it does, and students have access to this as well, but then it lists their major, you know, who their advisor is, that kind of thing. But the nice thing about DegreeWorks is it shows everything for their major as far as check marks for things they have completed. In the light blue are courses that they are taking or registered for. So she's already registered for the spring semester to take Math 150. So it shows it as blue. She hasn't completed it yet. She's not even in it, but she is registered for the spring to take it. So again, as for advising, it's really nice because it just helps you to see what courses they've taken and what they haven't. So you can help advise them and tell them what they need to take. And then there's also, oh, go ahead.
Are the blue ones that you just showed, are those the ones they have to take in the future, or are they taking it currently?
They're current, so they're either currently taking it. So some of these, the reason there are so many blue, some of them is taking right now in the fall. So over on the right, and if you have the pictures up, it may be hiding it, like of all of us. But over on the right, it shows the term. So a lot half of them are like fall 20 and the other spring 2021.
Let me see you already registered for the class.
Right now, yeah, and some she's already registered for spring. Yeah. Now, if she isn't, which she happens, all of them happen to be highlighted, but if she hasn't taken any and she's not registered, they remain white. They don't have any indication at all on them. So it would actually kind of look like this down at the bottom. So these fall through electives. So these were courses. So she was a pre-nursing student who changed to business. So a lot of the courses she took for the pre-nursing don't count, you know, toward the business degree. So they fall into fall through electives. So they're still credits, but they don't count toward that major. And it'll also show here courses that were transferred in. So she had taken some courses at Eastern Community College. So those show up in here as well. And again, you're insufficient. So W's or grades that you know, receive an FN would be there. And then again, those in progress show up again down here. So again, there is also a place here as well to put in notes. So you can add a note again if you met with an advisee and you wanted to put in the courses you recommended. Instead of doing Navigate, you could put them in here. It does also have a GPA calculator. And again, students can see this as well. But this is nice too if, you know, if they need a certain GPA to get into a program, or if they're close, if they're on probation and they need their 2.0 to stay. It has a calculator. It also has an advice or term calculator. So they can like put in different grades to see what they would need to get in order to get a certain GPA. So they can kind of mess around with that so that they know where they're at. And unfortunately, it's also sometimes you need to use it to show them, even if you got A's and everything, you still don't have a high enough GPA to do X, Y, and Z. But that's kind of a nice feature that's in there. Dad. All right, there we go. All right, so also worksheets, if they're thinking about changing their major, you can also do a what if. So if you click on what if, it would allow you to pick a different major. So again, right now, this is a business administration, but say, she wanted to change to, let's say she wanted to change to a biology degree. So again, maybe you've already noticed, but on here, there are lots of majors. So these up in here that don't say PSC in front of them, those are Morgantown degrees. So if we're looking at ours, again, you need to scroll down to all the PSC ones. So PSC biology. So if we highlight that for the program, and then over on the right, the major pops up here for the PSC biology. And then up at the top, you can process what if. And then this would show them, with all the courses that they've had, these down here below that are kind of in beige, those are all the courses she would still need. So she's really close to the business degree. She's really far away from a biology degree, but it would kind of show them, what would still count and what would apply and what they would still need if they changed majors. So there's a lot of fall through with those. One more thing, and then I'll open it up for questions. Also, if you, in the spring, so again, this won't, may not remember it right now, but in the spring, if you have advisees that are graduating, whenever they fill out their graduation application, you will need to print what's called a degree audit. So you come in here to DegreeWorks, and then you essentially are going to print their degree plan that shows at that point that they've completed everything or they're in progress of completing it all. So to print it though, you would save as a PDF. And then you would print this paper. So you can either print it or you can download with the little arrow here. You can download it and then print it if you want to, or you can just use the little print, screen to print it. And then they attach that to their graduation application to turn in. All right, any questions? Yeah.